Good morning, Your Excellency, Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of the AfCFTA Secretariat, Mr. Alex Dandy, the CEO of KGL, great inspiring story, honorable ministers and state ministers of the Republic of Ghana and other African countries here present, members of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you warm greetings from Dr. Antonio Pedro, the Acting Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Africa, who sends his unqualified apologies for not being able to join us this morning. It is an honor and privilege for me to address this August Summit of business and policy leaders. But before I proceed, I would like to thank the government and the people of the Republic of Ghana for hosting this important summit and also providing it with excellent facilities at this beautiful resort and for the warm hospitality that has been accorded to the UNECA delegation. ECA is glad to be partnering with the Africa Prosperity Network, and thank you, Eugene, for the great collaboration in curating this, and others in organizing this summit because of the importance it attaches to the African Continental Free Trade Area and its contribution to Africa's development. We have been invited here this morning for dialogue between captains of industry and policymakers on how to accelerate the implementation of the AfCFTA under the theme of AfCFTA from ambition to action, delivering prosperity through continental trade. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa needs to build a resilient and sustainable economy to withstand the external shocks such as the COVID-19 pandemic that we are just coming out from, to be able to withstand shocks like the one that are being forced on us by the Ukraine-Russia war, and also the challenges of the climate change. The AfCFTA would deliver Africa's prosperity by fueling economic growth, expanding decent jobs, raising the living standards for all Africans, and the power of the AfCFTA, as we have already heard, and we know, lies with its ability to integrate and consolidate Africa into a single unified market by eliminating many of the barriers that are currently making it difficult for the private sector to operate and to grow within the continent. As an African think tank, we have done some modeling work, and our work at the ECA shows that the AfCFTA implementation promises impressive benefits for the continent in terms of increased intra-African trade, increased incomes, and reduction in poverty. If we were to break it down to the different levels, by 2045, our estimates at the Economic Commission for Africa shows that intra-African trade in agri-food, industry, and services sectors will increase by nearly 35% compared to a situation where we did not have the AfCFTA. So there is a business case and a socio-economic case for the AfCFTA. However, these impressive projections cannot come true if the governments do not implement the AfCFTA agreement fully and also effectively, while the African private sector also seizes the opportunities of a large single market created by the agreement. And that is why, as ECA, we are delighted to partner in organizing this dialogue, because it brings together these two key players that are essential to make the AfCFTA work for the continent. Now, as you know and as we will hear, commendable progress have been made on the negotiations front, and we want to thank the AfCFTA Secretariat and to commend you for the great job that you have done in advancing the negotiations. But that said, the real test of the AfCFTA is going to lie with what the government, as the state parties, do back home. Also, what the captains of industry that are here today, what you do in terms of enhancing the trade and industry, and how you understand and own and drive the implementation of the AfCFTA, including by supporting your governments and also holding them accountable. Yet, the challenges that will impede actual implementation, we know there are many and are varied. We have heard about the question of infrastructure connectivity, which continues to be a major issue within the continent. But of course, it's also an opportunity. We are aware about our state bureaucracies, which many of us deal with each day, and it's even more serious for the SMEs. We know that our productive capacity remains rudimentary. We have heard about being able to make payments for transactions. It's also risky and expensive, and that's why we are happy to hear that the CEO of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System is here, because they're actually also working towards providing some of these solutions. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the issues that I have outlined here that must occupy us in the next phase of the impressive and highly promising project that is called the AfCFTA. Let me just conclude by saying that as we have seen under the Ukraine war, because of the Ukraine-Russia crisis, we have found ourselves getting shocks in our food markets. And there is, of course, a link between the food markets and political stability. And of course, where you don't have political stability, you have difficulties when it comes to implementing an agreement like the AfCFTA. But there is actually a feedback mechanism whereby if you implement the AfCFTA, like our numbers have shown, we would actually be able to increase intra-African trade in agri-foods, such that the shock like the one we have experienced because of the Ukraine crisis, we will not be worried about it. We also know that when the COVID struck, most of our supplies were coming from outside. In fact, the numbers are such that 90% of our medical supplies were coming from outside the continent. Now, some of the work that have actually been done by the AfCFTA Secretariat with its partners indicate that one of the most promising value chain within the continent, and which we affirm as ECA, is in the area of pharmaceuticals. So again, if we implement the AfCFTA, it would be possible for us to prepare ourselves to be ready for the next pandemic. So a functioning AfCFTA promises to create the market size, the economies of scale to justify the investment in large-scale production of essential products such as those in the pharmaceuticals. In other words, if and when it is fully implemented, the AfCFTA can actually help our continent to achieve a great deal of self-sufficiency to be able to withstand shocks. That alone is the reason for us to renew our resolve and invest ourselves in the AfCFTA. Of course, the AfCFTA promises a lot more. Again, if it is implemented effectively, it will provide a platform for Africa to diversify its economy and achieve resilience to shocks of a natural and any man-made nature, including the climate change. And in fact, we believe the AfCFTA is actually designed to lay the foundations for an African customs union and a common market. When these objectives are attained, and they will be, we believe they will be, Africa can define its collective interest as a continent and assert and defend them on the global stage, speaking in one voice. So the narrative that we want to build, at least we'll have a good foundation, because we'll be able to demonstrate to the rest of the world that we can do it and we have done it. So the Economic Commission for Africa has been there from the beginning, thinking about the continental integration. The Economic Commission for Africa will continue to be there, and Africa is ready to turn the promises of the AfCFTA to reality, and as ECA, we will be there all the way, both with the government, with the private sector, and also with the people of Africa. So I wish all of us fruitful deliberations, and I'm looking forward to listening to each one of you as we go into the various roundtables. Thank you.